Jaime Jimmy Tadeo, the peasant leader, organizer, and the 1986 Constitutional Commission delegate who played a vital role in pressing for the inclusion of agrarian reform in the 1987 Constitution. In 1990, Tadeo was jailed for what he described as trump-up charges of swindling in connection with a 200,000 rice inventory shortfall in a farmers' cooperative that he had taken over after its manager was shot dead. The case was filed during Marcos' martial law regime and then revived during the Aquino administration. Tadeo spent 3 years and 3 months in prison and was paroled 3 years after. In 1998, he was granted a full presidential pardon by then-President Fidel Ramos in support of his full farmer empowerment.
Former Zamboanga del Norte Representative Romeo Alusus was accused of raping an 11-year-old girl in 1996. He was arrested on January 17, 1997 in Bagac, Bataan and was detained at the Makati City Jail. In December 1997, the Makati Regional Trial Court, Branch 62, found Alusus guilty of 2 counts of statutory rape and 6 counts of acts of lasciviousness. He brought his case before the Supreme Court, but it affirmed his conviction in 2001 and 2002. The lower court's guilty verdict paved the way for Alusus' transfer to the New Bilibid prison in 1998. But despite his conviction, Alusus managed to run for re-election and win in the 1998 and 2001 elections. He held this post until the Supreme Court upheld his conviction with finality in 2002. His name was subsequently dropped from the list of members of the House of Representatives. In its 2001 decision, the Supreme Court affirmed Alusus' sentence of reclusion perpetua for each count of statutory rape and an indeterminate penalty of reclusion temporal from a minimum of 12 years and 1 day to a maximum of 15 years, 6 months, and 20 days for each count of acts of lasciviousness. The convicted congressman was also ordered to pay the victim 50,000 pesos as civil indemnity for each count of statutory rape and acts of lasciviousness, plus moral damages also amounting to 50,000 pesos per count. In April 2007, Malacanang acted upon the recommendation of the Department of Justice and commuted Alusus' sentence to 16 years, 3 months, and 3 days. Alusus was also ordered to pay the civil indemnity and moral damages earlier imposed on him by the Supreme Court. Alusus' case, whose sentences are considered for commutation due to their conduct, ailing health, and advanced age.
On October 26, 1992, high-powered firearms with live ammunition were found in the possession of Robin Padilla without having the necessary authority and permit to carry and possess the same. He was correspondingly charged on December 3, 1992 before the Regional Trial Court of Angeles City with legal possession of firearms and ammunition under PD 1866. During the arraignment of January 20, 1993, a plea of not guilty was entered for petitioner after the refuse. Upon advice of counsel to make any plea, after trial, Angeles City RTC Judge David Roset rendered judgment dated April 25, 1994, convicting petitioner of the crime charged and sentenced him to an indeterminate penalty from 17 years, 4 months, and 1 day of reclusion temporal as minimum to 21 years of reclusion perpetua as maximum. He served 3 years as the new Bilibid prison in Muntinlupa. In April 1997, then President Fidel Ramos granted him conditional pardon. Padilla's conditional pardon expired in 2003. According to his lawyer Rodolfo Rado, however, with the absolute pardon given to him by President Duterte, Padilla have regained his civil and political rights, such as the right to vote and seek public office, aside from his right to travel be issued as Philippine passport. The President granted the pardon due to his crime that did not hurt anyone and also upon the recommendation of the Board of Parole, which is under the Department of Justice.
In this next case, we have Ricardo Solangon. In this case, appellant Ricardo Solangon, along with the other armed men, kidnapped Libertador Vidal for ransom. Despite the payment of the ransom, Vidal was not released and was later found dead. Appellant was arrested and led the authorities to the location where Vidal remains were buried. The trial court found appellant guilty of the complex crime of kidnapping with murder, and it is hereby imposes upon him the mandatory penalty of death, and ordered him to pay the heirs of Libertador Vidal the amount of 50,000 as civil indemnity, 50,000 pesos as moral damages, and 50,000 pesos as exemplary damages and cost of suit. On appeal, the Court of Appeals affirmed the decision but modified the penalty. The Supreme Court in this decision found the two separate crimes of kidnapping for ransom and murder were committed. Appellant was sentenced to reclusion perpetua for both crimes. But in July 7, 2017, President Duterte has granted conditional pardon to 10 communist rebels, and Ricardo Solangon was one of them who was granted. Most of them had been in prison for more than 10 years. The release of the political prisoners detained at the New Bilibid prison is part of the fulfillment of Duterte's promise in pursuing the peace negotiations with the communist movement.
The Sandigan Bayan has convicted former Antique Governor Joveto Plameras of graft for the anomalous purchase of over 5 million worth of school desks and armchairs 11 years ago. He was guilty beyond reasonable doubt of the offense of violation of Section 3, Republic Act 3090. And judgment is hereby rendered sentencing the said accused to an indeterminate prison term of 6 years and 1 month as minimum to 10 years as maximum, and to suffer perpetual disqualification from public office. In April 2015, Plameras suffered a stroke and paralysis and was subsequently placed under house arrest. In 2016, Plameras sought a presidential pardon from Benigno Aquino III, which was not granted. However, Aquino's successor, President Duterte, has granted him conditional pardon. But for the pardon to take effect, Plameras has to pay the Antique provincial government of 2.65 million pesos according to an order dated December 8, 2016, which was released by the Office of the President. Through his lawyer, Plameras sought executive clemency, citing his age and health conditions.
On October 11, 2014, Jennifer Laude, a Filipina trans woman, was drowned to death by Joseph Scott Pemberton, a Lance Corporal in United States Corps in Olongapo, Philippines. Pemberton admitted assaulting Laude and deployed a trans-panic defense in his 2015 trial. The Olongapo trial court found that Pemberton guilty of homicide, citing mitigating circumstances including the Laude not revealing his biological sex, and sentenced him to 6 to 12 years in jail. The court said the killing of Laude amounted only to homicide and did not meet the standard for murder. Pemberton was convicted on December 1, 2015 and was initially sentenced to 6 to 12 years of imprisonment. But this was eventually reduced to 10 years. He was also ordered to pay the Laude family of 4.65 million pesos in civil, moral, and exemplary damage and other expenses. On September 7, 2020, 6 days after Pemberton filed a motion of his release under Conduct the Allowance GCTA, President Rodrigo Duterte granted him absolute pardon, extinguishing all of his crime liabilities without condition. Pemberton has only served 5 years and 8 months of his prison sentence of 6 years to 10 years. His motion released in his first time that the GCTA is being claimed by US soldier, while in solitary confinement and not serving his jail term at the New Bilibid prison in accordance with the Visiting Force Agreement, a mutual defense treaty between the Philippines and the US.